Connor McDavid stands at the most defining crossroads of his legendary career, and the hockey world is holding its collective breath. The Edmonton Oilers' generational superstar remains unsigned beyond the 2025-26 season, creating a storm of anxiety that's consuming every corner of oil country. But here's the twist that nobody wants to acknowledge. McDavid's hesitation isn't about money, market size, or championship pressure. It's about something far more devastating. A decade of organizational failure that has left him questioning whether Edmonton deserves another chance. The numbers tell a story so brutal it's almost uncomfortable to examine. In 10 seasons of McDavid magic, the Oilers have managed to outplay their opponents without their captain on the ice exactly twice. Let that sink in for a moment. The greatest player of his generation has watched his supporting cast crumble around him season after season, carrying a franchise that has consistently proven incapable of building a legitimate championship foundation. When we strip away the highlight reels and focus on the cold, hard mathematics of hockey success, McDavid's situation becomes heartbreakingly clear. The most revealing metric isn't his individual brilliance. We all know he's otherworldly. It's what happens when Edmonton takes the ice without their superstar in 5-on-5 situations, where hockey games are truly won and lost. Last season painted the picture in stark detail. Without McDavid on the ice during even-strength play, the Oilers managed 100 goals while surrendering 115, a devastating -15 goal differential that translates to capturing just 46% of the goals scored. With McDavid, they flipped to a positive 12-goal differential and 55% goal share. The mathematical dependency is so extreme it borders on the absurd. This isn't just about one season of struggles. Looking back at McDavid's entire Edmonton tenure reveals a pattern so consistent, it's almost scientific. Only in the 2022-23 and 2023-24 seasons did the Oilers manage positive goal differentials without their captain, posting +7 and +10 respectively. Every other season tells the same depressing story. Edmonton transforms from a functional NHL team into something approaching organizational comedy the moment McDavid steps off the ice. The expected goals data makes the situation even more damning. This metric, which analyzes shot quality and scoring chances created versus allowed, shows that Edmonton's supporting cast hasn't just been unlucky, they've been fundamentally incapable of controlling play at the NHL level. When your expected goals consistently lag behind your actual goal differential, it means your team is both structurally flawed and relies on unsustainable shooting percentages or goaltending heroics. McDavid's contract hesitation isn't the product of championship impatience or grass is greener syndrome. It's the natural response of an elite athlete who has watched 10 years of his prime wasted by organizational incompetence. The Oilers haven't just failed to build around their generational talent. They've actively squandered the opportunity through poor drafting, questionable trades, and roster construction that would embarrass most junior hockey programs. The prospect pipeline tells another sobering story. Edmonton's organizational depth remains questionable at best, suggesting that even if they manage to improve their current roster, sustainable success might remain elusive. For a player approaching his 30s, the realization that his team's future prospects look as dim as their recent past must be absolutely crushing. McDavid has essentially spent his entire prime carrying dead weight, transforming mediocre teammates into functioning NHL players through sheer force of will and supernatural hockey ability. The mental and physical toll of such responsibility would break most players, yet McDavid has not only endured, but excelled at levels that defy comprehension. Reports suggesting McDavid might consider only a short-term extension aren't signs of disloyalty. They're evidence of pragmatic thinking from a player who has learned not to trust organizational promises. Why commit long-term to a franchise that has consistently demonstrated an inability to build championship-caliber teams? A short-term deal would accomplish several crucial objectives for McDavid. First, it would allow him to evaluate whether Edmonton's recent front office changes translate into meaningful on-ice improvements. Second, It would maintain maximum leverage for future contract negotiations, ensuring he's not trapped in another lengthy deal with an underperforming organization. Third, it would send an unmistakable message to Oilers management that championship construction is no longer optional, it's mandatory. The psychological aspect cannot be ignored either. McDavid has spent his entire NHL career making his teammates better while receiving minimal organizational support in return. A short-term extension would essentially put Edmonton on probation, forcing them to prove they deserve his continued loyalty rather than simply assuming they're entitled to it. At 28, McDavid remains in his absolute prime, but championship windows close faster than most fans realize. The Oilers have wasted the first decade of his career, and another long-term commitment without guaranteed organizational improvements could waste whatever prime years remain. McDavid's hesitation reflects an understanding that time is running out, and loyalty without results is simply career suicide. The recent playoff runs have shown glimpses of what Edmonton could become with proper roster construction, but they've also highlighted how dependent the team remains on McDavid's individual brilliance. Championship teams need depth, secondary scoring, and the ability to compete effectively when their stars take necessary breaks. The Oilers have consistently failed on all fronts. Edmonton's salary cap situation adds another layer of complexity. They've committed significant money to players who haven't justified their contracts, limiting flexibility for meaningful roster improvements. McDavid understands that being the highest-paid player on a poorly constructed team is worse than being well compensated on a legitimate championship contender. McDavid's leverage in contract negotiations extends far beyond individual performance metrics. He represents the kind of franchise-altering talent that transforms entire markets, and virtually every NHL team would restructure their entire organization to accommodate him. Edmonton knows this, which makes their decade of mediocrity even more inexcusable. The financial implications of losing McDavid would be catastrophic for the Oilers organization. Season ticket sales, merchandise revenue, television ratings, and corporate sponsorships would all suffer massive declines. Yet McDavid also understands that his career legacy matters more than organizational revenue streams, and championship success with another franchise would cement his historical standing in ways that individual awards cannot. McDavid's contract situation has evolved into something approaching an organizational ultimatum. The Oilers must prove they deserve his continued loyalty through meaningful roster improvements, front office competence, and championship-level commitment. Anything less risks losing the greatest player in franchise history to organizations that actually understand how to build around generational talent. The clock is ticking, and Edmonton's response to this crucial offseason will determine whether McDavid finishes his career as an Oiler or joins the long list of superstars who achieve their greatest success after leaving underperforming organizations. The choice belongs to McDavid, but the opportunity remains Edmonton's to lose. The question isn't whether McDavid has been loyal enough to Edmonton, it's whether Edmonton has finally earned the right to his continued loyalty. After a decade of carrying an entire franchise, perhaps it's time for the organization to prove they're worthy of carrying him to a championship. Do you think McDavid should give Edmonton one more chance with a short-term deal? Or is it time for him to find an organization that matches his championship ambitions? The stakes couldn't be higher for both player and franchise, so let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and smash that like button if you believe McDavid deserves better than what Edmonton has delivered.